Okay, welcome back with more Feature Boot Camp. This week with Script Camp, we are looking at found footage. So this is fitting into our Halloween season of classes because found footage is mostly a horror thriller genre. So we'll be looking at techniques for writing in this mode of storytelling, how to use that camera as a character and find interesting new techniques to explore with it. And we'll be looking at different plots for found footage movies and ways to factor the camera and the editing and the curation of the footage, ways to that we can make that just kind of play into a unique premise for your found footage feature. So let's jump right in. Make sure you sign up for membership if you've not already done so at our website, which is skillca.mp, Skill Camp, where you can enroll for just, if you click right here, as low as just $15 a month if you're a monthly subscriber, or you can subscribe yearly and get a discount. This gets you access to every event on every server, every workshop, every class, swap, and reading, and these boot camps, which take you all the way from idea to finished draft of a brand new script or manuscript. We currently have 3 of them running at any given time, so that's going to be Feature Boot Camp. That session is going to be 11 to 1 on Sundays, and TV Boot Camp, 6 to 8 p.m. on Fridays. That's going to be this time slot. And then the last one is Novel Boot Camp on our other server, WordCamp, which is running 12 to 2 on Saturdays up through the end of the year. Hope to see you guys there. Okay, let's get into the overview for today's class. We'll start by looking at just what on earth are we talking about? What is found footage? Does it have to be found? Does it have to be footage? Questions like this. We'll, of course, start with discussion of some of our favorite entries in this mode of storytelling, in this maybe we'll discuss what to even call it, whether it's a genre or a subgenre or a mode. Looking today also at some style variations, so some different approaches to this, some different ways to think of found footage, and ways to frame your movie. The basic conceits and some advanced techniques, different stuff you can do with the camera or with the editing of that footage. A few exercises as well in terms of new camera tricks, and we'll have a plotting exercise as well, or we'll just sort of brainstorm a few silly pitches for found footage movies based on prompts and based on choosing titles and modifiers from columns. Should be fun. All right, let's jump right in. So, found footage defined. To begin with, it's not really a genre. We talk about this a lot in terms of horror thriller because most of them are going to be horror thriller. But I've seen examples of everything from comedy to the occasional drama or action films or sci-fi. Or these other things can really work with found footage as well. There might be some genres that no one has ever attempted to do in a found footage kind of way. But largely when people talk about this, they are referring to horror thriller. And you can see why. It is conducive to a low budget and can a lot of things that would be limitations in other genres and modes of storytelling are actually kind of benefits, especially in that low budget world of horror thriller. Things like isolation, low number of cast members, low number of locations, a lot of darkness, grainy kind of DIY camera effects and things like this. Those might otherwise be downsides, but within the world of found footage, you can make that part of the selling point of the authenticity. So the footage is usually going to be framed as sort of unedited, like we just found means we discovered this footage as is, like in a raw state. And now you're just going to sort of be seeing all of it with no attempt to curate or present it. Whereas the more it has been curated and repackaged and presented, that does inch it towards what is called mockumentary. And there's a lot of crossover between found footage and mockumentary, and we'll even look at some ways that they bleed through. One kind of movie can become a different kind, or they can swap back and forth, or all these different interesting techniques that you can try. In any case, this is often just a good way of creating authenticity and utilizing a lot of imperfect techniques or techniques of what we might normally consider to be flaws or imperfections. That would be janky, jerky camera work or mostly unknown actors or like lesser experienced actors or minimalist editing or things like that. They can really enhance the realism and immersion and act as selling points for that story. And that's just a big part of the fun. So you have to be pretty creative with these. They've fallen out of fashion and out of favor in a big way in the past 10 years. I mean, up through maybe I would say like from the 2007 to 2015 kind of time, the time of the paranormal activities of the world. This was a huge, huge, huge genre, and there was tons of this happening in all different aspects of horror thriller, especially, and experimentation on the really big AAA scale too, with big movies like Chronicle and stuff like this, even looking at it from a superhero kind of lens, which is a cool one. But in any case, you have to be creative nowadays. You can't just write the exact sort of stuff that's been made before. You have to showcase that not only is this going to be a story that will excel as a movie, like the story on its own is good, but also it could only be told as a found footage story. And just keep in mind, of course, that this is really limiting who will have interest or ability to make it. It does inherently create it or push your story into a bit more of a niche to put it as a found footage movie. It doesn't necessarily make it that much easier to make. Some aspects of it might be easier, but some other aspects might be harder. So there's a balance and a push and a pull there. It's not like a shortcut at all. So don't rely on this to like get a movie made in a better way. This style of filmmaking, though, it can really excel in a low budget. I mentioned these actors don't need to be big stars. And sometimes that's even a huge part of it, where if we think back to Blair Witch Project, the filmmaker had the actors sign contracts to say they wouldn't even make public appearances. So it could actually look like they died making this footage or in the taking of this footage, right? There was a perfect storm of just like early internet sort of message board culture and just enough sort and like lack of exposure to this genre that movie you could see really why that one caught on and really made this catch fire, despite the fact that there had been other sort of found footage type stuff before that here and there. Man Bites Dog is another one from the early 90s that I wanted to reference today, just in terms of sort of other approaches and different stuff you could do besides just straight horror thriller. So writing these, though, we should be ready to, quote, direct on the page. And I say this because this is such often a demonized, vilified term in screenwriting, educational kind of worlds, or even just writing, advice in general. People will say, don't direct on the page. That's the director's job. We shouldn't be doing cinematography. But when you're making a story like this, you are specifically choosing to include the cinematography as like an additional character, like the cinematographer, whoever's filming, whatever different or curating or whatever, different lenses we're telling the story through is going to then be a really key inherent part of it. So you are sort of saying that I don't just want to be doing shot, reverse shot, like straight coverage of conversations with this. I want to be more creative with my cinematography and I want to make choices that could only make sense within the found footage world. So let's get right into favorites. I want to highlight a couple, then I'll open the floor for you guys, and I want to hear which ones you like and why. The one I want to first lead with is Director's Cut by Penn Jillette. If you've never heard of this and don't know what this is, don't look up anything about this. Don't watch the trailer for it. It gives away a lot, and it's one of the most delightful movies to just unfold that I have ever seen. I'll just say it's a dark comedy. Some say horror comedy. It has like horror-ish elements, but it's not that scary. It's just a dark comedy with a really clever combination of mockumentary and found footage and other narrative styles kind of woven in. It will surprise you. Check it out. I think it's on Amazon, and maybe like Tubi and stuff like that. So see if you can find it. It's just called Director's Cut. Okay, take my word for it. The other ones. So District 9, I think, is a cool example because that one starts with found footage to really ground us in the reality of it. And despite the fact, I mean, the CGI maybe hasn't aged amazingly, but it's still pretty good. So you can really feel that it sort of like helps us get into what otherwise would feel like a very alien world for a lot of American standard viewers that are like, okay, first of all, we're in a different country, we're in a different culture, and there's aliens on top of that. Everything about the story feels very different and very alien. This might as well take place on the moon. But I think the found footage element of it really makes it feel down to earth. And like the fact that we start with just doing on the street interviews with people and we can kind of get like a lot of different perspectives on the alien situation makes for some very easy, clear metaphors and parallels between this and real life. And also just it's a nice way to ground us in what would otherwise be kind of a complicated world with a lot going on. And that might otherwise make viewers go, ew, what is this, right? It helps us sort of understand the human aspect of it. Taking of Deborah Logan is one that every time I remember it, I'm like, that's not that good, is it? And then I'll catch a glimpse of it on like Shudder TV or something, and I'll watch it the whole way through because I'm like, actually, that unfolds really well. Something about the patience that it shows really takes its time in getting to know the characters and starting with what seems like just a pretty serious dramatic situation in which the characters are doing a documentary about this woman's developing dementia. And eventually it takes a darker supernatural sort of turn where there's something else going on besides just the mental illness. So that one I think is cool how it kind of builds that dread and really makes you wait for it. But when it delivers the spooks and scares at the end, it's really earned them. And you've really gotten to know the characters well. What else do I have here? The Chronicle is, yeah, maybe not one of my favorite movies of all time, but in terms of found footage, I think it just is really creative. and does some great stuff with this and broadens it so it shows what you can do with this outside of horror thriller and like all the ways that it can make sense and really work in a sci-fi action adventure kind of storyline. And I like the ways that it kind of goes out of its way to justify that the different characters filming and the different reasons why a character is filming a specific scene. The motivations different characters have for filming different stuff is consistently interesting throughout. And then the last one, I just have to shout out and highlight Hardcore Henry because it's so unique and there's nothing, uh, you just can't find an experience like this outside of a video game. It's like a first-person shooter as a movie. A character with sort of bionic superpowers shoots and fights a bunch of bad guys. That's pretty much all you need to know. It's a lot of fun, and if you don't get motion sick easily, then you will be impressed by all the different gags and almost like Jackie Chan level cartoonish, wacky, over the top, crazy violence in this one. So if you got a strong stomach for violence and parkour sequences, then just give it a watch if that sounds interesting to you. All right, let's hear from you guys. Favorite found footage movies and why?
This is not my favorite genre, but if I had to pick uh, something outside of Blair Witch, it would be Creep. Ultra low budget. There's two actors for the whole movie, and it is one of the best examples of the genre, in my opinion.
Okay, what do you like about it?
It feels believable. Like a lot of found footage has this kind of like hokey setup where there's sort of hand waving why everyone has cameras. This is a very believable setup about why everything's being recorded. Um, it's a guy basically responding to a Craigslist ad. It's this amateur sort of wannabe filmmaker, and he's filming this guy's last days as he's dying of cancer, or so he believes. So great setup, and it just escalates. It's a creepy movie, hence the name.
Yep, lots of jump scares in that one. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Let's hear you shout out a favorite found footage movie and why.
Again, I don't know if this is considered found footage, but I really like End of Watch. It's
Yeah.
like a cop movie and it's shot, yeah, as if it's like on body cam footage. Even even though it breaks the rules
Oh, I have a
afterwards.
whole slide on that. Don't you worry.
But I thought that was a really cool movie.
That's a realistic modern day action with body cams, and you think in a world with more people have more cameras on them than ever. Body cameras, cell phone cameras, ring cameras on your doorbell. We've got drone cameras, we've got traffic cameras, we've got dash cameras, we've got Ubers with cameras on them. We've got, you name it. Found footage now has faded away. Like it seems like now is an opportunity for us to sort of capitalize on that and use that more and find interesting new angles for this. That's what I think. Let's hear one more.
Uh,
Anyone else have a fair? Oh, go ahead.
there's one that's not technically found footage, but it uses elements of found footage and could very easily be reshot as a found footage. It's called Session 9.
Mhm.
Um, that's a really good sort of just standalone psychological horror movie. Great setting. It's like an abandoned insane asylum or sanitarium. I forget which one. Um, and yeah, it's a great movie. Uses a lot of those elements, but doesn't technically fall into the genre.
Right, right. Yeah, I saw that one, I think, back in college. So it's been a while, but I do remember enjoying it. And yeah, there are some stories that have parts of them that are like found footage, parts of them aren't. Like there might just be an extended sequence that is, or maybe the movie's sort of half found footage. You can mix this up however you want. There are certain normal conventions, but there are not like any really strict rules. Okay. Anyone else want to shout one out?
So, can I ask what is the criteria for found?
I didn't realize somebody else talking about it.
That's okay. Let's hear Tamara first, then we'll hear Dakota.
I just wanted to know. I was trying to think of what is the criteria for found footage. Is it just someone making a movie with additional footage that is um like stock, or I mean not stock, but something that's already happened?
So it's
Okay,
a movie that's going to be presented as if it is composed of recordings, photographs, or other media that has been found by the filmmakers, either edited by them afterwards to attempt to, piece it together for us in mockumentary style, or sometimes it's presented like just this is the raw footage from the cameras, like no one has edited or touched this at all. So there's sort of two major modes there. There's the mockumentary mode and then there's found footage mode. But people conflate those terms and they mix those terms together a lot.
I have one.
like Right.
Sorry. Let's just do one at a time.
I have
So,
one.
Mara, sorry, that's too many speakers at a time. Let me finish with Mara first. Does that answer your question okay?
It does. I was confused about the mockumentary part, so you helped me get a clarity about that. Thank you. Sorry about
Yeah.
that.
No problem. Thank you for the question. I heard Megan next. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that. I apologize. I had thought that Smart was finished. Yeah, I personally I like the mockumentary mode, and then ultimate mockumentary for me will always be Spinal Tap.
There you go. Yep. So that's a comedy, then sort of what is his name? Christopher Guest style, which are sort of low key comedies that are they're pretty far away from this horror thriller stuff that we're mostly talking about. But that's because mockumentary, I think, has a different sort of palette that it draws from than found footage usually. Found footage usually has the connotation of horror thriller, where mockumentary more has the connotation of, I think, that sort of world of Christopher Guest, sort of like low key slice of life-ish dramedies. I heard one more person. I think it was Kev. Go ahead.
No, it was me.
Oh, it was you. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. As above, so below. I'm seeing it's also a found footage movie I saw within recent years. So that one was quite well shot and also psychological horror.
Yeah, the idea of Paris catacombs just seems like such a natural setting for a horror movie. And the hellish kind of imagery in that, the idea of like the deeper you go in the catacombs, the closer you get to hell. I thought that was all handled in a really cool way. I don't remember much about the story or the characters, but I just the concepts in it, some of those did stick with me.
Yeah, me neither, but yeah, thanks.
Thank you. All right. So, thank you for everyone who shared their found footage of choice. Let's go right ahead into some interesting variations on this that we've seen. Late Night with the Devil from last year. Interesting hybrid style that combines a couple different modes. To begin with, it is about a late night live talk show host who is going to try to perform an exorcism or talk like summon the devil through somebody to talk to them on air, and in an effort to boost his ratings. The nice thing about it plot wise is that the scarier and weirder things get as the show goes on. Of course, the main character keeps pushing it more and more because he's like, our ratings are killing it. So that provides a really believable reason why he wouldn't shut the show down and call the cops and things like that. Making the main character actually the one that's egging it on and like pushing things and escalating things on their own just works great as a plot device. But the cool thing is that it is composed of several different modes, wherein we have one mode of storytelling that is during the broadcast while we're live. We cut between the multicam setup of the studio and we stick just in that and only in real time. Then when they go to commercial, we flip to black and white, and then we're in handheld narrative style where we then go behind the scenes and we sort of can follow the characters around and see them, doing stuff not on air and in the sort of normal mode of narrative movie presentation. So the standard diegesis, we would say. So then it goes back and forth. So we go from not exactly found footage, but footage that is being curated live, meaning that they can choose when they swap between the different cameras and what they zoom in on and stuff like that. And then we go from that to just basically real-time standard diegesis backstage. I should define diegesis. So diegesis is just the Greek word that means narrative. Just means storyline. But diegetic means that it is sort of the story. So music that is diegetic, so therefore, could somebody explain the difference between diegetic and non-diegetic music, for instance?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Diegetic sound or diegetic music is music that is played on a radio or is on a record player. It is literally within the world of the film. Whereas non-diegetic sound would be stuff that James Gunn uses in Superman or Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a soundtrack. And diegetic can become non-diegetic, right? As in Superman, right? Where that song plays on the radio. And then when the fight happens, it becomes louder. Now it's non-diegetic because it takes over everything else and is now, outside of quote the movie. But then it becomes diegetic again when we go back into it, into quote the film, right? So non-diegetic is basically music that plays over the stuff. Diegetic is music that is within the stuff.
Thank you for that. Go ahead, Elma.
I got one. Yeah, it's the film story space, diegesis. So non-diegesis is outside of the film story space.
Perfect. All right. Thank you guys for that. So, yeah, that's just we'll start there because that's a big concept in found footage. We have to sort of delineate between, is what we're seeing and hearing something that characters can also hear, or is this something being superimposed over that, or is like we have to kind of understand how we are perceiving the footage that we are watching. So normally early on in the story, you want to sort of set it up, and you tell us in the opening text or the opening crawl, this footage was discovered from the beaten up, blood-stained cameras of 9 hitchhikers in southern Missouri in 1978. What they saw over the course of one weekend was so disgusting and horrible that we decided to show it to you and sell tickets to it. Anyway, it'll be like that, right? Like at the start, there will be some kind of framing device that tells us what we're watching and why. You don't have to start with it. You could introduce it later down the line. Maybe we don't know why the footage is being taken at first, or who's curating it, or who's making it. And certain stories, like I mentioned, director's cut, I won't say what it does, but it really plays with that idea of like, wait, who is making this? What exactly, like, who's controlling this? So that's just like one of the many fun things you can do with that. With one of the variations of this genre is like hybrid style, where you use aspects of found footage and use aspects of mockumentary, and you can even use aspects of standard diegetic narrative. Man Bites Dog and Behind the Mask: Rise of Leslie Vernon are both darkly satirical mockumentaries, but they're about 20, 30 years apart, the making of them. Behind the Mask, I think it's from 2010 or so, and Man Bites Dog is from the early 90s, and it's a Dutch or Belgian movie. And they are both documentaries that follow, they're about documentary crews that are sort of making like a profile piece on a serial killer, but they don't treat it all that seriously. They sort of treat it as if it is like a profile for GQ or something like that, right? Like they sort of treat them like celebrities more than treating them like killers. So that's kind of a weird hybrid style where you can see that even the world itself can be kind of stylized, although there are specific considerations you have to make in terms of the idea of objective reality being shown by the camera. So most of the time, what you're seeing, like in terms of found footage, it has to sort of be objective reality. I'll get back to that a couple slides down the line, but essentially that means what we see is what's real, or at least what is perceived by the camera. Okay, so but within that, it doesn't mean your story can't take place within a crazy world, I guess is what I mean to say. Like Man Bites Dog and Leslie Vernon both take place in worlds where a documentary crew would just very casually make a profile piece on a serial killer and follow them around, interviewing them about how they murder people all day, right? That's clearly not the normal world. Another Period is a 3-season comedy show on Comedy Central, which is actually a parody of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, but as if it was set in like 1902. And it follows a particular Rhode Island family of wealthy socialites as they just basically get involved in soapy Kardashian-style drama, which makes sense given the actual Gatsby-esque behavior of those characters in that era. But the funny thing about it is that it's a mockumentary that takes place in a time that there would have been no cameras. So the fact that it is a mockumentary at all is sort of a joke and part of the fun. Unfriended, Searching, Host, and yes, War of the Worlds 2025. The infamous, I haven't seen it yet, but I've been told I have to watch this absolute train wreck of War of the Worlds 25. But in any case, we respect what it's going for. Something different. These are, I don't exactly know what these are called. Maybe we'd call them screen capture movies. But in these, we watch the action of the film unfold on just one character's computer screen as they navigate between different browsers and apps, or maybe in some cases we switch between different computer screens. But usually we follow just one. In all the ones I've seen, it's been just the one. Although different characters can access the computer, which does allow you to do some different interesting stuff there. This was popularized by Unfriended and the movie Searching. Searching was a big hit, actually. That did this quite well. And is, again, more in the thriller space rather than the found footage horror, which is cool. It's not curated, so it all feels very raw capture, like from a guy's iMac, basically. But a lot of thought is put into the different windows and websites and apps and stuff that are used all throughout. So I think that one's done quite well. There's a sequel also. I think I can't remember what it's called. What was, yeah, somebody let us know if you can find out. Spree, I thought was a pretty good one. 2020. This is mostly recorded from dash cams and in the Uber, like those little cameras that they use to face inside to record and make sure the customer's not like stealing your money and puking on the floor and stuff like that. So it's almost all recorded from vehicle sort of little GoPros and things of those along those lines. And I thought I'd throw in another weird one. No one has heard of this movie except for me. But Death of a President, 2006. It's a mockumentary about a fictionalized current event. Because if you remember, I think that was second Bush administration. It's a movie that just supposes George W. Bush gets assassinated, and it includes like news clips of like anchors that pretty much resemble anchors that exist and interspliced with clips from real anchors, and it kind of like knits together. It's like a theoretical scenario that would be happening, right? It's like historical fiction that was set in the present day, if that makes any sense. It's a really weird idea, but ultimately it's pretty well put together. It's just at this point probably not really worth revisiting given how removed we are from those politics by now. Okay, so those are just some different sorts of things you can do with found footage, and there's a lot of creativity that you can use in figuring out why is someone filming, who is filming this, with what technology are they filming this, how are they putting this together, for what purpose, who's watching it, is someone responding to it in real time? We could do a movie that's a live stream. You could do a movie that somebody has to vote, or like an audience has to vote yes or no on certain choices the characters have to make. There's a lot you can do. Here are some basic reasons why somebody is filming in a found footage movie. To begin with, we'll look at just happenstance. So that means that they were filming something else, and either home, like on the simplest level, just home movies, right? And then something interesting happens nearby, and they keep filming, either because it's interesting, or because now they're like, well, my new objective is to document whatever's going on now, because I'm going to either sell the footage later, or and get rich off it, or because people need to know, or something like that. That's kind of the Cloverfield approach, where it starts out as we're recording a video goodbye party message to our friend, where we go around the party and everybody records a message for him, which makes a really good device to meet a lot of characters at the start and establish that kind of like grounding in that world. But then we go into, there's a monster attacking the city, and so I'm now going to essentially become a war journalist to get the ground level footage of what's going on here so that people know the truth. So you can shift from one sort of rationale for storytelling into the other. And when a survival situation gets dangerous enough, in fact, you have to go a little bit out of your way sometimes to justify, well, why are they still filming now, though? But what about now? Like, there's people dying left and right. Are you sure you want to keep filming? And sometimes you can even have a character lampshade that and call that out. Why are you still filming? But it sort of just forces you to look ahead to see that problem and to be able to counter that before you run into that issue. Investigation. Investigation and journalistic are two linked ideas, because any journalistic premise can become investigative, but journalism is not inherently investigative. It can be, but so investigative journalism is a branch of it, right? But on its own, journalism could simply refer to, we're doing a profile about somebody. We're just talking, we're just showcasing information about someone or something or a topic. We're just presenting information. It might have some kind of bias or point to it, or it might have some intention behind why exactly we're telling it, but inherently it does not come with the same sense of a driving question as the mystery version of this does. The investigation version of this is your characters, which might also be amateur investigators. They are trying to resolve a question, which is often something like, what is haunting my apartment? Or what is the monster that everyone's been seeing in the woods? What's been eating my chickens? Something like this. So we are making the footage with the express purpose of using that footage to answer a question or to present the answer to that question to somebody else. So journalism and investigation are definitely linked, but they're not always going to be one and the same. And then lastly, we have exhibition. And this would just mean a lot of the time that the villain is the one making the footage. It doesn't have to be that. And there's a couple exceptions I can name. But yeah, this is somebody showing this off because they want to or for entertainment value. And usually the events of these movies are so horrific that in order to be showcasing them for entertainment value, you basically have to be the villain or a villain. Let's look at some specific conceits. We'll start with happenstance, then I'll open the floor. If you guys want to shout out any found footage movies you know that utilize this basic conceit. Okay, so we just happen to be filming for something low stakes or unimportant or just sort of for fun. Then the zombies get you. So it's going to be a pretty immersive and disarming first act. Like it's a nice way in to a movie because your characters are just either entertaining themselves or they are making something the smaller stakes. Like in Rec, the Spanish horror film, which was remade as Quarantine in the US. This starts as a puff piece that a news anchor is doing about a fire crew. And it's like, we'll just follow around this crew of firemen for the night. We're going to go slide down the pole at the station and interview them, see where they eat their food, see where they hang out, where's the lounge, and what do you do on a call? I'm going to get to wear the hat. And then it turns out, oh, we got an actual call. Great, that's even better for our footage. They go along in the call. Turns out, well, there's zombies that are going to attack this apartment building. But you get the idea that we started filming something else. So this sort of starts as happenstance and turns into, or it starts as light journalism, I guess. And in essence, if it's light enough, journalism, it's basically happenstance, right? Because just something interesting happened to unfold nearby. The Visit is a similar case where it's like, well, I guess journalistically they were documenting us meeting our grandparents, but that's not really journalistic. That's more just like, we happened to be filming. We wanted to film this. And so the fact that they turn out to be evil or something's wrong with them ends up being a coincidence that your characters take advantage of and then we have to have a reason why they continue filming after that. Some characters may just be wearing devices that film constantly, and then you don't really have to even worry about the question of who's filming and why. Think of a movie about like deep sea divers or submarine operators or, spaceship people, spacemen with astronauts with cameras in their helmets and stuff like that, or soldiers with a lot of modern day US soldiers will have recording optics in their helmets. So in those cases, you don't have to have any special reason for why is somebody filming or why would somebody continue to film in this dire situation. Often control of the camera, though, does have to pass from one character to another if the circumstances do get dire enough, meaning you have to either find a way for your character that doesn't care that it's a life or death situation and they would prefer to keep filming, or you do something like we pass the torch, meaning like your characters start with home movies, then the zombies attack, then you flip to the camera of a reporter that shows up on the scene, or the body cam of the cops that show up on the scene, something like that. You can swap between different cameras basically whenever you want, because you are kind of the documentarian. You're the curator of that sort of supposed archive of footage. Okay. Any other movies you guys want to shout out that just are basically happenstance as to why they're being filmed?
I think the very first part of Paranormal Activity is happenstance, but I don't remember. And maybe some of the movies like Unfriended might fall into that category as well.
Yeah.
The screen capture movies.
If I remember correctly, Paranormal Activity starts with like, I got a cool camera, babe. Check it out. And then it's sort of like much lower stakes. And then when the hauntings begin, or then I guess he uses, oh, I remember why. He gets it because his wife is having a sleep disorder. And that's right. And so we get the camera. Then he's like, hey, I can use this camera to figure out what the sleepwalking issue. And then it turns out that that is a symptom of the haunting, possession, cursed bloodline, et cetera, et cetera.
I forgot why were they filming the taking of Deborah Logan?
It was a documentary about the progression of Alzheimer's.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Got it. Yeah. Yeah, it is really, it sort of sticks with you. I mean, it's sometimes a bit over the top, but like, yeah, that is, they did a lot with a very small budget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good performances in that one. Any other movies just filmed by happenstance that you guys have seen? VHS is a pretty fun conceit. Every VHS movie has a different frame story. But the frame story of the first one is there's a group of basically psychotic delinquent teenagers going around terrorizing people, like smashing car windows, breaking into houses, scaring people, doing pranks. And they're filming it all because they're just making like a Jackass style like clip compilation, I guess. They stumble into this house that they're going to rob, and then I think, or they get a tip that there's like a valuable video collection in the house, I believe. They either that or it's just they get a tip that it's a house that that'll have valuables in it. They go inside and there's a dead guy sitting in front of the TV with this big stack of tapes all around it. And they're like, "Whoa, what happened here? What's up with this guy?" Then they're like, "Hey, we might as well check out some of these tapes." And that's the movie, is like the tapes that they're watching. But in between the tapes, we cut back to their footage of themselves, like, "Whoa, what was that? That's so creepy!" And like weird stuff happens in the house around them, like all throughout the frame story too. So that was a nice way to sort of nest three sub stories within a frame that in an almost like Tales from the Crypt kind of way. I loved it. I'm obviously, you guys know the kind of stuff I have worked on in the past. I've written for Creepshow and a lot of stuff in that sort of campy 1950s Tales from the Dark Side monster kind of vein. All right, journalistic. So the characters are documentarians and usually a bit more professional in these. So they may go in with a specific story they want to tell, or they might kind of be looking for a story, but more often than not, this is going to skew towards characters that are deliberately and professionally curating the stuff that you're watching. So journalistic might have more shades of mockumentary, right? Unless they, for instance, we're through the edited parts and now we're in the raw footage of them doing sort of like looking for new clues or new leads or something along those lines, right? These usually have talking head interviews because any journalistic, that's just like a basic tool of journalistic filmmaking shooting, is that you can cut to an interview with somebody at any time. It could be somebody from immediately in the moment or like a few seconds after. Imagine the kind of The Office style asides. Or you could we are cutting to experts and analysts that are years down the line in the kind of cold case version of this. And usually those are going to make it feel a little less immediate. Like if we're cutting to something that feels like it happened a long time ago and your characters are just analyzing it now, there's a give and a take with that. You gain a little bit of immersion in that it feels like, well, it feels feasibly like that could be something that really happened in the world. But the downside is that it might feel a little less like the characters that we're following are in danger because it's like, well, it already happened, right? But you can always surprise us, mix it up there. I don't know. People giving the interviews get attacked suddenly. That'd be cool. So in any case, your characters might start with one story in mind, but then they swap to a different story, or it sort of becomes a different storyline, like Gunjum Haunted Asylum, which is kind of like a YouTuber ghost hunting kind of conceit where they're like, we're going to go get crazy, creepy footage of this haunted asylum. And I think they're expecting it to not be real, but then it turns out to be real. And they basically all get killed by ghosts. That's the movie. If that sounds good to you, you'll like it. It's nothing more, nothing less, but it is a very well done version of that, at least. We have your central conceit here being, though, that your character is the primary driver of the story. So they're the ones choosing what to film and why, and as well as conducting interviews or those asides or splicing in clips or other media or otherwise. You have a sort of storyteller, a primary storyteller, that is the one that is directly responsible for communicating this information to us. All right. Any thoughts or examples of journalistic found footage stories you guys want to shout out?
It's not really a found footage, but I will use any excuse to recommend this movie. It's 1986. It's called True Stories. It's kind of a mockumentary, I guess, but it only uses some footage from like interviews and stuff. Just a really great, really strange movie that I think more people should see.
One more time. What was the title?
True Stories.
True Story. Oh, cool. I never heard of that. I'll have to write that one down. Thank you for that.
Norseman is kind of like this, and I think they do have some of these like talking head, confessional moments, but it's like during the Viking Age, there were no cameras, so
Right.
I'm not sure who's actually making this because they do. It's like they're talking to someone, but I don't know who.
Do you ever see the crew or any of the equipment?
No,
No.
I mean, I not that I think I've seen all the episodes, but that would be really funny if you saw like a crew in the middle of this Viking village.
That would have to mean they're either cosplayers or time travelers or something else was going on, wouldn't it? Like, I guess in the world of
Yeah.
comedy, just the fact that it's funny and doesn't make sense can just be fine. All right. How about investigation? So I hope you can see the difference now between journalistic and investigation, because like what we do in the shadows is journalistic, but that's just a profile. It's just like, hey, check out these guys. Here's how they live. Here's what they do. It's not actually trying to resolve any question. Now that could become journalistic, or sorry, that could become investigative if a question clarifies. But if it doesn't, then it's gonna just remain like something for like a column for People magazine, as opposed to a deep dive investigation into who killed so and so, right? So your characters are trying to get to the bottom of something. In the sort of a lot of the true crime kind of either documentaries or mockumentaries are along these lines. Usually, question being, well, who committed these murders? Who was really responsible for this? If this person wasn't guilty, then who is guilty? What really happened? This category skews more towards amateur protagonists, though, than professional documentarians, though either one can work. Like I mentioned, you can do both in an investigative journalism feature. These usually won't involve talking head interviews, though, or a lot of professional editing techniques, as we often imagine these are kind of amateur sleuths, excuse me, amateur sleuths that are trying to resolve a question for their own purposes. Like Searching, the guy's not a detective, but he sort of has to learn how to become one, a digital crime-solving detective, more or less, by the end of the movie. They often also are going to review the footage as they go and can update their conclusions as they gain new information. Unlike with journalistic, where they often go in with a clearer thesis to begin with, or like an objective, more often in the investigation stories, they're just trying to find an answer, but they'll have to go through several different possible explanations that could be red herrings. So normal mystery rules apply in terms of red herrings and misdirects. If the protagonist dies or leaves the story, another character then has to take up the cause of unraveling that central question. So make sure you have accounted for that. And then our last one will be exhibition. I'll ask if you guys have any other good examples of this one too. So this is kind of an odd one. Usually the footage is going to be taken by the antagonist. I mentioned because of the events of most found footage movies. Like if we think about what's actually happening, it's going to be so horrific that to showcase this for some kind of enjoyment would be inherently villainous. So most of the time, this would have to be your villains that were the ones that were either recording this or editing it together or showcasing it for whatever reason, right? So they might be complicit in what's going on. Although they could also be the hero. I mentioned Project X, which if I remember correctly, is a teen comedy that the characters are just like, let's just show you the most badass party that's ever going to be thrown in the history of the world. So they are exhibiting what's happening. But since it is a party, it's not something horrifically bad happening, then you get the idea. But most of the time, it would sort of have to be the villain recording these. The rationale, though, could be voyeuristically showcasing these tapes. They just enjoy it. The reason could change halfway through, where they're like, I'm just a serial killer who records my crimes. But maybe halfway through, a victim starts to really get away and challenge me, and I'm going to make a documentary now about them. That could be kind of interesting. The movie Maniac kind of has that vibe a little bit. Maybe there's even a supernatural reason for showcasing the footage, like to spread some kind of curse, or to drive people crazy, or to hypnotize them, or turn them into some sort of brainwashed zombies, or infect them with psychic parasites or something like that. I don't know. Any examples of exhibition conceit found footage you guys want to shout out?
It's a tough one.
Anybody see Sinister? This is a huge plot point in Sinister.
A Sinister found footage?
It has a heavy found footage element. The pitch of it is it's about the guy that finds the footage and him trying to piece it together and figure out what it means, who made it, what's happening in it, and how to stop what's happening in it from happening again. So I would say it's like 30% found footage, yeah. Okay, we can move on from that one if no one else has a good shout out ready to go. Let's do a quick plot exercise to bring you back in after a long bunch of slides. So we'll need a volunteer, and we're gonna pick a couple. You'll pick one thing from one column. We'll give you the other stuff, and you'll just kind of shotgun a pitch right off the cuff, just whatever it makes you think of. It doesn't have to be perfect or well constructed. Just what does it make you think of a movie? Like, what movie does it make you think of? What do you start to see? What can you start to put together? All right, we'll need a volunteer.
I got you. Let's go.
All right, thanks, Dakota. So you'll pick one thing from one column. Actually, you know what? Before we do this, let me get some more titles. So I've just written a couple titles. The Carnivore Garden, Race to the Grave, On Ice, Get Me Out of Here! Exclamation point. In the chat, just type a bunch of titles. Just everybody, anyone who wants to can just type it in. I'll just add them to the board. Keep on going. All right, here's one called Taped. Keep going. Just a bunch of title ideas. I'll write a few as well. Here's one called Orange is the New Black. That's already a thing. No, I can't write that. We'll call it Orange Sunset. How about one called Meat Grinder Apocalypse? We'll do one called Crime City. Keep going. I want to see a bunch of titles. Thank you, guys. Ghost Hotel. Beef Barbecue Smokeout. That could be like an action movie along the lines of Bullet Train, or what was that one? Gunpowder Milkshake or something like that. Barbecue Smokeout. That's like a Robert Rodriguez title. Murder Train. Thank you. Keep going. I think I saw the Murder Train. It had Bradley Cooper. And it was the Midnight Meat Train. That was not found footage, but maybe it could have been. AI Mind Murderers. Thank you, Tamara. AI Mind Murderers, not murders. Okay. Any more titles? Fluffy Bunnies and Teddy Bears. Thank you, Megan. Your options are horror, thriller, action, or sci-fi, so enjoy with that one. The Big Bloody Sky. I love that. That should be a pirate book. How much pirate found footage is there? Let me ask you that question. We need to get pirates taking more footage. Okay. Sorry if this is too small. I'm gonna make this one a little bigger, and then I will paste that one in. All right, Dakota, do you want to pick a title, a genre, or their footage conceit?
I think I'm gonna do the footage conceit because I think I can work with that. I think I'll do mystery just because I think I can work with that the best. That's the one I'm the most familiar with when it comes to this.
Okay, sounds good. So now we'll need to pick, or Luke, are you there? Do you want to pick Dakota a title and genre?
Oh, sure. Which one did he pick for the footage conceit?
Mystery.
Yeah, so probably an amateur
Alright.
investigator.
Yep.
Let's go with. I'm torn between two. Let's go with Get Me Out of Here.
Okay, and the genre?
Okay.
Let's do thriller.
All right. Get me out of here.
Oh. Okay, Get Me Out of Here. Thriller. Okay, so we are our main character is trapped in a house in the middle of nowhere. It's one of those like it's in a blink and you miss it kind of town, very rustic, it's basically just a cabin that probably needs to be condemned. It looks like somebody died in here because somebody did die in here. He is trapped in this house at first, right? And he's tied in a chair. And the found footage, it starts off as he has his phone, and the phone is on a tripod at first, and it starts off voyeuristic at first, but he gets it. He gets out of the chair, and he gets his phone, and he starts to basically record things. He is a influencer, but he's kind of a small influencer. His whole shtick is going to abandoned places or whatever. This time he went to the wrong abandoned place. Uh, and he realizes that he is in the home of a serial killer, or at least where a serial killer takes his victims in. Um, and he manages to get out of the house, but realizes that it it's not he's not trying to just get out of the house, he's trying to get out of basically a reserve. Um, because serial killer pretty much runs this abandoned like ghost town. And it's like a game reserve for him. So he is basically tracking people down. And we realize that, oh, it's not just him that's here, it's other people too. And so we have to all get out of here.
Are they
else
all
we're gonna
filming or just the
Yeah.
one guy? They're all filming.
Yeah, yeah, they're all filming. So we all get we get different perspectives and stuff. And we kind of get it's kind of like a Friday the 13th in a way where, it's a one by one kind of situation. Or then there were none, right? Why is the killer doing this is the main question, right? So as the killer, one by one, the footage changes to the next person, and so on and so forth. And yeah, we realized that the serial killer was a former cop, and the reason why he's doing this is everybody that he captures or killed has a family member that did something illegal or something wrong or whatever, or like feels like that that justice evaded them somehow, and so he's taking it out on the family pretty much. Of like, hey, your father was a racketeer, your father did this, did that. I'm gonna take you to teach him a lesson because that's what's listed there.
All right.
And yeah, so that's kind of what I'm what's kind of going on. And it's the get me out of here is just out of, the place that we're in. And I'm picturing this is like in the middle of like Montana, where it's like the most remote state in the United States. So like there's literally like no way. Like this is a nobody can hear you scream kind of place. Like it's perfect for, murder.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, the one question is just sort of why is everyone filming?
Right.
And Luke in the comments
Right.
just now mentioned this idea of they all have cameras on them, they can't remove them or they die kind of thing, as in bad guy
Yeah.
sort of wants to make it into like a TV show almost, where
Sure.
you're battle royaling them together or something like that.
Sure. Yeah. It could be that there's like cameras like everywhere too. Like so there's that too. So we're kind of mixing a little bit too.
That can work.
Like the mystery and the exhibition, we can kind of mix those two things together.
Right.
So yeah.
And the other thing that comes to mind, to me at least, this one, as soon as I remember it, because I just had it. What was it? It was what were we just talking about? They have cameras on, they can't take them off. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So the other question being, you mentioned he's an influencer. That kind of raises the question, well, why these people? Are they all influencers? And if so, is that tied into the situation here? Meaning like this group of destructive YouTube, like there's a bunch of movies like this, but you don't, so you have to do exactly
Sure.
this. But like just something to start to weave everything together would be like, this was a group of nasty influencers who a couple of years ago, they went on a joyride doing graffiti and they did a lot of damage to this abandoned town. Turns out there were still people living in that town. And all those years ago, they started the fire they started, well, that devastated the community, something like that, right? And now, all these years later, they've been lured out and they know the sort of villains know that they are going to continue filming because they are voyeuristic YouTubers or whatever, right? So you could always have that be, that might be the more cliched way to go with it would be, how many horror thrillers have I seen now that are just about vapid influencer gets what's coming to them? Like I think like 10.
Yeah, there's a lot of these.
There's so many.
Also like it's also the villain usually does it because the people that he's killing, killed his family, killed his wife, killed his dog, whatever, right? The dark past trope. that I hate.
Would you prefer your villain have a bright, happy past?
No, but
Oh, good.
I just
Maybe something
no,
like that could
but
make sense.
I just that that could actually be kind of funny.
Yeah, I wonder how that. Think about that. Think about how
The only
they.
other thing,
Go ahead.
the big plot hole that I see with pretty much all found footage too, not just this, but every found footage movie is what happens when the thing dies. Like the camera battery dies, there's no electricity, the phone battery dies, there's no electricity. Like there's no way to charge. Like, are you telling me these people wait to charge battery?
Well, it depends on
Like,
it depends on the conceit. Like in a
Right.
journalistic conceit, they brought extra batteries. In
Right.
happenstance, there's less likely to have brought extra batteries, and you would have to think of something
Sure.
else. But iPhones can film for a while, so like you can
Yeah.
get quite a lot done with a fully charged iPhone. You're right. At some point, you might have to address it in the story, though, for sure.
Sure. Yeah, that's honestly the main reason why I don't like the found footage genre is because of that. Is because of there's a lot of loopholes of like because I do a lot of filming. Like a lot of like that's what I do for my job. And I'm like, do you know how many batteries I go through?
You can make it part of the fun.
Batteries.
That can be a big selling
That's
point, like
true.
especially if you have experience, filming yourself, then you can think of all the little things that will then make for interesting games in the movie.
Sure. Right.
Let's do one more volunteer. Oh, and I also want to uh, suggest when you go at like even just these pitching exercises, rather than trying to like unspool a fully formed plot line, I would start by just thinking about the situation more abstractly to begin with. Like, why is it called that? What could that refer to? I wonder if this situation would make sense, or maybe this one. Like, you don't have to like, it doesn't have to be perfect right away. So don't worry about trying to like go from A to Z of a plot line. It doesn't have to be the whole thing.
I'll try.
Great. All right. Which one do you want to start with?
So one of these columns, huh?
Yeah.
Barbecue smokeout.
Barbecue Smokeout is the title. All right, Dakota, you want to give them a conceit and a genre?
Sure. Do the exhibition and do sci-fi. Just make it fun.
All right. Barbecue Smokeout. Science fiction. What have you got?
Let's see. Exhibition is. I need a reminder. What exhibition is?
Okay, it's usually going to be movies where the characters are showcasing this footage for entertainment value, or like the antagonist has taken the footage themselves, and
Okay.
maybe there's some sort of selfish reason that they're showcasing it, like to make money or to spread a curse or something like that. But yeah, I would think of these usually as the villain is the one filming.
This is harder than I thought. So the reason they're filming is exhibition, barbecue smokeout. I don't know. The title is kind of constricting here.
Well, let's start with the title. And do you want me to help, or do you want to get a
Yeah,
different
I'll have some. Yeah,
arrangement? I'm glad to just go back and forth with you if you want. Okay, so start with barbecue smoking.
Okay.
So science fiction barbecue. In a previous class, I pitched a movie where there was an alien invasion, and then after all the aliens are dead, different chefs have to decide, wait, what do we do with these guys? Can we eat them? Do we eat alien meat, and how do we package and manage that? Who's going to be the first chef to cook the alien meat? I'm not saying to go that
It
route,
could
but I'm
be.
just saying start thinking barbecue, sci-fi, what comes to
Yeah,
mind?
yeah. It could be like gas chamber kind of thing where people get smoked out.
Okay.
Um,
That's a pretty dark
yeah,
interpretation of barbecue smokeout, but sure, maybe that, or
yeah,
maybe you're referring
yeah.
to an alien
It
ship
could
called the
be like
barbecue smokeout that like blows up
a
planets or
culture,
something.
where they are cannibals and they're literally smoking humans.
There you go.
That could be his thing. But then exhibition is the antagonist or the protagonist filming it.
The antagonist. So that would be like,
The antagonist.
imagine the menu, but the Ray Fiennes
Oh yeah,
character
yeah.
is like, hey, I would like to unveil my new dietary supplement. made from human flesh, which will allow you to live forever, something like that, right? Like so, I don't have to feed you the story, but so to speak. But what are you thinking? Do you want to just spitball something, like, or I can ask more questions? What do you want to do?
Yeah, you can ask more questions. That would help unravel it.
Okay, sure. So you want to try thinking along the sort of cannibal kind of realm, or
Yeah,
do you
let's
want
do
to
that.
pivot?
That's more appropriate. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so in the world of science fiction, in relation to cannibalism, what are some ideas that come to mind in the sci-fi world there? Like eating people to gain their memories
Yeah.
or their powers or their
Interesting. Interesting. It could be uh it could have an alien element where the aliens are the ones that are requiring fuel from humans. Maybe humans have some sort of um some sort of chemical that they need, and it gives them powers to conduct their business.
Okay.
So they're literally smoke. Think of like the Matrix where they're harvesting humans for energy. It's actually a smokehouse where they use like coal and stuff and add flavor to the humans. I don't know.
Great.
How's that?
That's good. All right. So you got your like roadhouse, like in the Americans in the Southwest in Arizona. Let's put it outside of Roswell. Like, why not? And then it's actually run by alien chefs that are kidnapping people and turning them into the fuel source for the aliens. And then they're
Yeah,
making. Oh, maybe there's an episode of like Diners and Drive-ins and Dives that wants to do an episode on it. And so, because using the found footage theme, right? So we
yeah,
use Guy Fieri is like, this place has amazing. It has only 5-star reviews. It's got like hundreds and hundreds
yeah,
of 5-star reviews because the aliens have been doing nothing but
yeah.
flooding their
It could be it could
Yelp.
be it could be like mechanical aliens where they already have like cameras in their eyeballs. So
Sure.
sort of like AI robots or something that have some sort of a biological skin, and they have like body cam footage, but it's through their visual
Their actual
cortex.
body. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Speaking of body cam, yeah, or you do like Predator where they wear suits and masks that have some sort of like recording gear already built into them.
yeah, yeah,
That's gonna be fun. Feels like a Futurama kind of plot line where you have your unsuspecting sort of documentarian show, or maybe if it's the aliens that are exhibiting it, then they're making the documentary here. But I would think
yeah.
that you have a person
So
shows
I
up,
think
maybe a food critic or something like that.
yeah, I think the aliens that are running the barbecue smokehouse are rogue, and the reason why the body cam footage is being reviewed is because the organization or the leader of the sect of aliens is kind of investigating corruption within the aliens business running the smokehouse, maybe.
Okay. He's concerned about alien corruption. Like he wants to make sure they're not like skimming alien or meat off the side or something like that.
Ridiculous, but yeah,
That's fine.
yeah,
It
alien.
works. Alien cops. They just want to enforce alien laws, but not human laws. It's like the opposite of the Men in Black almost.
Yeah,
There's something funny
yeah.
there. You've
You
done
need a
well with
neuralizer, a
for sure,
neuralizer
yeah.
at some
That would
point.
be at
Yeah,
the checkout counter. Yeah, they have the next to the scanner where they take your credit card. All right. Thank you
yeah.
for taking a swing
Yeah.
at that one. I know it's hard to just riff it off the top of your head sometimes. All right. We'll have another activity down the line. We have a few more slides I want to look at. We're going to look at basic tools and then things you can't do, and then advanced techniques, and then we'll have an exercise on new tricks, stuff we've never seen the camera do before, and we're going to brainstorm new things that you can do with found footage. Then we'll finish up questions and lab/workshop for the last 20 minutes or so. Okay, let's jump in. Basic tools. The camera, number one. We've been talking about this a lot, the camera. It's the most important thing here. It has to exist in the diegetic world of your story, and it's operated by the characters or someone. The footage might be edited or not, and the narrative view can also, like I mentioned, you can consider that you yourself are sort of the curator of this footage. So if somebody's filming anything at any point in the story, you can reasonably switch to that perspective if you want to. You normally can't really switch to normal diegetic perspective, but there are some exceptions. I mentioned like Late Night with the Devil being a good example of that, where the standard narrative sequences are in black and white, which sort of tells us there's something different going on here. Black and white being kind of like the filmic version of italics. The B-roll. So filmmakers shoot a lot of footage for documentaries and news stories, and you can draw from these many supposed hours of material anything you want. We can't show all of it. You can't show all the footage because that would just be longer than 2 hours. But maybe you could include those little moments where someone just turns the camera on for a second by accident. There's all those great moments early on in Cloverfield where the footage we're watching has clearly been taped over something else. And so the transitions between the interviews at the party will show just snippets of the main character talking to his girlfriend and moving into his apartment, or we see like stuff that isn't necessarily curated at all. It's not even meant to be in the video. You might imagine characters leave it running too long, or they get a snippet of something unexpected. Sometimes you can do great scenes of your characters reviewing their own B-roll, where they're like, wait, hold that back, roll that back. And they rewind the footage and can zoom in or highlight or enhance something. They can't obviously enhance it, but they can sharpen it, or they can brighten it, or things like that. Some good examples of that in Sinister. Talking heads. You can cut to interviews in several different styles. We mentioned the in-the-moment interview style of something like The Office, or that might even kind of resemble reality show talking heads, which are supposedly in the moment, but are almost always recorded way afterwards, and they're tightly scripted. So you could use those if you want to give that sense of reality TV to your thing, like I mentioned, that show, another period comedy show, where it does this sort of reality show conceits instead of standard found footage. In any case, the in-the-moment talking heads might be your character reflecting on something that happened just a few moments ago. Retrospective would mean your characters are looking back at something that happened a long time ago, and they might be analyzing or applying their expertise or giving testimony in relation to something they're seeing in the more kind of cold case style of stories. Edited versions of montage and juxtaposition are within your tool set as well. They might be done intentionally by your characters, who you should consider how your characters might be imperfect storytellers. They don't always know the best clip to include. They don't always know the best transition to use and the best way to make a specific point or the best way to shoot something. Like, you can incorporate all of those imperfections into the camera work and the writing itself. Unedited examples might be accidental montages, where it's sort of, we write it maybe on the page sort of like a montage, but it might just sort of be like quick snippets bridging the longer scenes together, like those moments in Cloverfield I mentioned, where in between the interviews, we'll see just like a second of something else. Or maybe you'll have your characters, like, they accidentally turn the camera on while they're walking, they realize they turn it on, they turn it back off, they show up at their location, they film some relevant stuff, some stuff that's not relevant. Here's some stuff you can't really do. So a big one is music. You can't use music in the same way. And if you try to, then it will read as a huge mistake and the entire movie will be broken. And sometimes you'll still release the movie. Like Megan is Missing. In Megan is Missing, I swear to you, there's a party scene at a teenage party where they're blasting like probably LMFAO or some band like that over the speakers. And we cut all throughout the night. And I think there's even a time code that jumps ahead, and the same song is playing. You see what I'm saying here? What is supposed to be the diegetic music at that party is playing continuously over several clips that are supposed to happen. Like, are you saying the same song was playing later in the night and it happened to sync up? No, that's a mistake. So obviously sometimes movies get released with mistakes, but just be careful of you can't use music in the ways that you normally would. And in fact, silence becomes more of an asset to you in found footage because of that lack of it again comes with the trade-off, right? You get better immersion out of more silence, out of that sense that this isn't a movie. This really happened, right? The other idea is pre-lap. That's an advanced editing technique. Can somebody explain what pre-lap is in just a couple words?
It's a line of dialogue that happens in the scene previous to the actual dialogue. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's sort of like a preview.
I didn't think it's.
Go ahead, Joel.
So I was going to say it's not necessarily dialogue. I mean, it could be. It's often an editing technique as well. So it's when you hear sound from the next scene before you see it, I believe.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Thank you guys. So yeah, it could be dialogue or it could be sound effects, but in any case, we start to hear sound before we cut to that other thing. But that would never work if it was just found footage, right? Because that is actually a technique that you have to deliberately put into place. So you can't really rely on that. And normally, I mean, pre-lap is totally fine to write into your script. Sometimes it can have really significant effects, but it's not really an option here, unless you're in that much more journalistic mockumentary format where your characters themselves might be making those edits. What else can't we do? Use flashbacks. Why can't we use flashbacks? Right? Somebody want to simply answer the question, why can't we do flashbacks?
Because nobody filmed it. It's found
Yeah.
footage.
Unless someone did film it, in which case we're not really flashing back. We're kind of just showing a different clip, right? So yeah, a flashback is understood to be through a character's perception, but we're not interpreting the story through your character's perception. We are seeing it through the camera's perception. So yeah, we just cannot really use flashbacks in the same way at all, unless somebody films something in the past that you want to splice in. But that's just normal documentary technique. That's sometimes it's called file footage. Or just like an insert, right? You can always do inserts of just pictures or documents, things along those lines. We see that in true crime all the time. You can't really leverage surreal techniques such as dreams, visual metaphors, or magical realism because the camera is showcasing objective reality. Can somebody explain exactly what that means, or does somebody want to expand on that idea?
Things are happening now, as in now. We're in now. Go back to then. I can't. Why? You just missed it. When? Just now. That's what objective reality. It is now. We're in the now.
Thank you for that.
I'll just use an example. Let's say you have a schizophrenic man having visions. In an ordinary movie, you could show the visions, but in found footage, you just show him freaking out because whatever he's seeing is in his head. It's not being filmed.
Yeah, we could never show the visions because the second you do, then you're saying this is no longer found footage. I'm now in the perspective of somebody watching the footage, which just doesn't make sense. You just can't really do it. You could show, but you could. It gives you an interesting opportunity, right? What if that guy made an animation of his visions? Then you could show that. You can allowing your character to be the curator and the filmmaker allows you to access a lot of similar techniques, even if you can't use them the exact same way. Okay, we do have to talk about end of watch. Somebody mentioned this. This is the weirdest thing I've ever seen in a found footage movie. And I know this is actually a well-reviewed popular movie, but you can't do this. Even what is it, David Ader? Is that his name? Cannot do this. No one can do this. Okay, it's a realistic, grounded, down-to-earth crime thriller about police officers usually filmed through their body cams, and about their conflict with the Mexican cartel in Los Angeles. At one point, Jake Gyllenhaal's character and his wife, they hook up. There's a sex scene in the movie. Guess what? The camera keeps filming. What? What's going on? And they don't address it. Like, is the guy just like, is he just filming the entire encounter? What's happening here? Like, it makes no sense. It never comes up again. It breaks the whole conceit. And I know you could always say, like, well, I guess they're just into freaky stuff, but like they're filming with police body cams for most of the movie, and their characters would never film it. You know what I mean? It doesn't compute. It breaks everything. I cannot believe that is in the finished movie. They should have made it like, oh, we dropped the body cam or something like that. Then you could get away with it, right? Like, there's ways that you could have made that work. Anyway, don't do that. Also, Megan is Missing is terrible. So here's some advanced techniques and things you can try. Think of the camera's physicality. How big is the camera? How much does it weigh? Can we use it for things? Can we use it to wedge a door open? Can we use it to smash a zombie's face like in Wreck and Quarantine? Can we have a character stick? This is a good one. You see this all the time. We put the camera on a selfie stick and we put it up into the attic to look around before we go up there. And keep in mind, the character won't be able to see the footage right away. So they can go up, look around. They're like, all right, I didn't hear anything, but you see something creepy, and then they take it down and they're talking to their friends for a while, and you just know it's up there. So you can use that idea that like it'll take them a minute to be able to get to this, and then you can sometimes factor in, let's rewind it or let's fast forward the footage into the fabric of the movie as well. That's just really fun stuff to try out. How heavy is the camera? I mentioned that we're gonna smoosh a zombie space with it, so it's got to be pretty heavy. Your characters can throw the camera back and forth. The lens can get broken, or it can get wet, or distorted, or hijacked. It's not a found footage movie, but I really love this shot in Everything Everywhere All at Once, where the main character sort of learns about the different universes, parallel multiverse, and the camera gets cracked in the middle, and we see sort of divided by the spider web of those fractures, it's slightly out of sync with the different images of herself, as if she has been kind of like divided into three different realities. It's really, really brilliant way of showcasing that with a physical element of the camera. That you would see something like that in found footage, right? What else? Who has the camera at any given time? What is their interest and objective? And does it coincide with the protagonist, or is there some difference? There's the really well done opening sequence in Cloverfield where the character's going around recording goodbye messages at the party. You'll see a lot of moments where he sort of becomes interested by something else. Or there's this girl that he kind of keeps coming back to that he wants to find a reason to talk to. And he starts to zoom in on her and focus on her more. The character controlling the camera may have a different idea of what's going on. They may have a different tactic, different limitation, or different objective to whatever your protagonist is doing in the scene. The person holding the camera does not always have to be the protagonist. Use the technology. What kind of camera is it? There's a lot of different kinds. What settings does it have? Does it have night vision, thermal, slow motion? Is it a drone camera? There's so much we can do with drones, right? Like we're in an era of more flying cameras than ever, and there's fewer found footage movies than ever. Make it make sense. If it's modern or futuristic, your character might even be able to do advanced technology type of stuff. For all its supposed flaws, the New World of Worlds movie is kind of doing stuff like this, where it's like your character is a hacker or some kind of FBI computer operator, and as a result can do things like searching databases or performing searches on people's faces. We can like connect people's identities together or things like that, right? You could easily see a whole sort of searching or unfriended kind of movie from the POV of the guy at the spy computer in the Jason Bourne movies, right? So there's a lot you can do with just the technology itself. Think of what can the camera or the person operating the camera do? What specific point of view are we in? Any other fun stuff you guys have seen done with the technology in found footage movies, or any other ideas you have of something you could do with different technology?
I have a list of things I'd like to see more of, and you have a picture right there. Sort of like war footage, infrared, night vision. That kind of thing's always creepy. Being surveilled from a high altitude, even like a satellite. I would love to see more footage grabbed from like the ATM or the self-checkout or somebody's Ring camera or things like this. And another thing that might be interesting is sort of using recreations, like forensic recreations instead of footage. Because okay, we don't have the footage of this part, but we've like made this detailed 3D simulation of 99% like proximity to what might have actually happened. Like that could be interesting.
Fair.
And also just like advanced technology. Like if this was sci-fi, maybe there's not like a camera, but like a sensor that could sort of like scan the environment and reconstruct what happened in like 3D.
Yeah,
Um,
like Batman can do.
Sure, or like the show Devs, they can show events from the past because the universe is like deterministic. So if they find they input the correct math or whatever, they can basically recreate an event without a camera. Things like that might be interesting. And then Elma posted in chat just this idea of like Neuralink, like taking someone's like subjective thoughts and experiences and fuzzy memories or dreams or this kind of thing and like visually displaying them somehow. That might be interesting.
Great kind of like Black Mirror sort of techniques that you could try here. I'm reminded of that one episode where it takes place in a world where people can block each other, not just in social media, but from reality, because everyone has sort of brain and eye chips. And so if you get blocked by someone, they just look like a sort of fuzzy, like TV static, like blob to you, and you can't hear anything they're saying. And sort of that society's ultimate form of exile is everyone gets blocked to you, so you can never interact with another person again. Happy Halloween, everyone. All right, let's look at a few more techniques here. Fun games to play. So you gotta find fun stuff to do with your cameras. Automatically, like the Paranormal Activity movies made a whole franchise out of this. We can use automatically triggered cameras, like if you're setting up some sort of ghost investigation. Like they even do this in The Conjuring, and that's set in the 70s. That could have been a found footage movie if they had done. There are found footage parts of The Conjuring, but the characters are ghost hunters, so they put cameras on timers and heat sensors and motion detectors and tripwires and stuff like that. Kind of a cool idea. Camera on the rotary fan or on a rotary pattern, like in Paranormal Activity 2. Some really good scares that you can get there. You know, the anticipation of that sort of repetitive motion, or camera on the Roomba, camera on the family pet, sort of putting the camera in unexpected, unpredictable places. What kind of effect can you get when the audience doesn't know who's controlling the camera? You guys remember the end of Blair Witch Project?
How could we forget?
I think this one really works, especially even in retrospect, because it's hard. Sometimes you don't even realize it, but you can hear the female character screaming somewhere else in the house as the camera's slowly making its way downstairs to find this third character, this guy facing the corner, right? Who's holding the camera? It has to be the witch. And so you can get some really eerie, interesting moments out of like the ownership of or operation of the camera itself is in question. We might be sort of afraid of what is the person holding the camera going to do next? All right, let's do one more exercise, then we'll go into our questions and open lab for today. I wanted to write down just a bunch of stuff that I've never seen a camera in a found footage movie do before. Let's get creative. I just wrote down a bunch of ideas, so I'm going to read them off. Then I want to hear more ideas from you guys. Stuff you've never seen. Ideally, this would be better if you've seen a bunch of found footage before you know things that you've... like, if you've never seen a found footage, then everything would be something you haven't seen before. Maybe you can just try your best, though. Just try to think of anything that you haven't seen. All right, so here's mine. Number one, camera becomes sentient and develops the will of its own. I don't know, maybe it is a robot. It's like a drone that is becoming more intelligent over the course of the movie, or maybe it's some sort of like biomecha thing where it gets infected with a parasite and grows legs and installs robotic parts to itself. Camera controlled by someone who's not there, and the characters have to figure out why it's filming what it's filming. Could be kind of a cool mystery where we have like a Saw type setup. Strangers show up in a house. There's like a drone going around recording stuff. We have to figure out, wait, what is it actually doing? Like the characters figuring out what is the purpose of this film being made could be interesting to watch. The movie gets hijacked by the villain. Maybe the entire movie gets, like the camera gets haunted or gets stolen by the villain or infected by the villain, and they can rewind or fast forward or otherwise now control it themselves to either set the record straight on how they feel that the hero has been presenting them, or maybe, I don't know, just I'm not sure what else their objective would be in taking control of the narrative. Maybe punishing the initial filmmaker for having the audacity to make this footage about them and their haunting or whatever. Camera is some sort of, Luke mentioned something like this. Camera is some sort of advanced AI and can scan people or objects to get more information on them, like in Metroid Prime. That's always a fun one. Always a fun one, like I've seen that before. I mean, that technique of scanning stuff to get more info about it can be really fun. Camera gets swallowed by a monster. Yeah, or person, I guess, could swallow the camera, and then maybe the hero has to chop it out. Ideally, we probably wouldn't want to watch it go through the whole process. Generational found footage movie that transitions from camera style to camera style throughout the ages. Start with 8mm, then digital, then cell phone, then each act is a new style, maybe with a surprise flashback to like 1930s or 40s. It's like a really old clip. That would be so sick. I almost want to write that. I just don't have a pitch for it. How cool would that be? All right, what else you guys got? Stuff you've never seen before in a found footage.
The viewer gets to control the camera. Like you're in a VR movie and you're moving the camera around and sort of focusing on things that interest you, while other spooky things might be happening behind you or above you or this kind of thing.
Okay, yeah, that's basically a video game. But you could look at that as a form of like interactive filmic narrative.
Sure. Like there's these YouTube videos that are 360 degrees where
Yeah.
and you can choose like where you want to pan and focus on.
Yeah.
Something like that could actually work for a feature length movie, I think.
Yeah, VR story. I've met with some people that work on VR storytelling type experiences like that. VR theater as well, and people do VR sports stuff.
I think we got to mention the filming someone's like dreams or memories or this kind of thing.
Sure, visualizing dreams slash memories. That'd be awesome. I think I saw, oh, gosh, I can't remember what the movie was called. It was not very memorable, but it at least had some cool special effects. It was something about characters going into like digitally recreating each other's dreams. Can't remember it now though.
Well, I hope you do. I'd want to watch that one. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I'll let you know if I remember the title.
How about the camera censoring the narrative? Like we're in some kind of dystopian reality and it's only showing you what it wants you to see to sort of build a narrative, like a false narrative.
Okay, so is there you're saying there's a person controlling it, or the camera itself has sort of like an AI that's determining what it
Yeah,
shows?
maybe. Yeah, I think the camera might have some kind of AI filter like that Black Mirror episode.
That could be cool. So it's like certain rules that govern what it can show or what it wants to show and what it doesn't want to show.
Right.
What else you guys got? Let's hear one more.
I put it in the chat. It's kind of ridiculous, but an endoscope. But it's
Those
like
the
osmosis tones.
yeah, the camera that goes down your throat. Okay, we've got the literal actual body camera in someone's body. Yeah, I can see a body horror movie like The Substance or something like that can do a sequence with that. Don't isn't there a sequence kind of like that in Death Stranding?
Several.
Oh yeah, there is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Kind of. Yeah.
Some weird fetus
You
stuff.
die. You die.
All right. Thank you for these ideas, guys. I think found footage is it. We're in a spot where we're all kind of waiting to see how it will come back because it hasn't exactly come back in full force yet. I mean, Late Night with the Devil was a hit, and there have been a couple other successful ones the past couple of years, but it's not as huge as it used to be 10, 15 years ago. And even reboots of old franchises like Blair Witch didn't exactly blow up into a huge new franchise there. So some people say found footage is dead. It's done. It's done for. But I think that, like I mentioned, we're in a world with more cameras than ever, more types of cameras, and more techniques for using that footage. There's more drones in the sky and more ring doorbells in people's houses than ever before, and more cell phones in people's pockets. So there's so many reasons and interesting ways to utilize this mode to get new types of stories, or variations of the types that we've seen before that will still feel fresh. All right, let's move to questions about anything we talked about today.
My big question is what makes most found footage just not work? Like why when people try very hard and use expensive cameras and stuff, it sort of makes the genre worse. Whereas people just, filming out in the woods seems to, I don't know. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, so maybe the kind of like the gloss of high production values, you're saying for you, kind of removes an element of that authenticity, maybe, or it doesn't feel
Yeah.
as gritty and like it actually happened. It feels kind of like karaoke of the idea of, or like it's like a high budget recreation of the idea. It's like I get what you mean.
I think maybe the word authenticity might be the key to all this. Like,
Sure.
if the setup doesn't feel plausible, if the cameras feel forced, like why are they still filming? These kinds of questions. It
Yeah.
all feels less authentic.
Yeah, and I think that maybe on the lower scale, even the mistakes don't break the immersion and authenticity. So maybe that is the difference there, right? Like, because the little things, they really stand out of a high budget production, but they all sort of feel like part of the gritty, DIY nature of it becomes part of the style at the lower scale. So maybe that's kind of why. There have been still some successful high budget found footage movies. I mean, like the Paranormal Activity sequels do make a lot of money. but
True.
they most would agree are not the best examples of the genre. There's sort of a weird like sub area of this too of like movies that feel almost like found footage but aren't, like 28 Days Later.
Yeah, Troll Hunter. It's like they really want to show off this expensive monster that all these artists created, but it are you really going to be trying to film the troll that's trying to kill you like currently?
Here's,
I don't
but
know.
but they know in that movie they know about the trolls beforehand, and they're going out looking for them. So that's why they're trying to
I
film them
guess.
almost like tornado chasers would, film a tornado.
I guess that's a good point.
It'd be one thing if they had never heard of trolls before, but I think they're sort of more normalized in that world. I mean, they're like kaiju size, so how could they not be? It's been a while since I've seen it though. I thought I had a whole slide for it, but there's just a little picture of it in the corner there.
Love to see more like true crime elements,
Sure.
like
Um,
American Vandal, if anyone's ever seen that. If you haven't, it's well worth the watch.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. That's a fun one. Go
hey
ahead.
Connor, I have a question.
Sure.
What about something like The Departed, but with body cams? Can that work? Like, I'm just trying to pick your brain for ideas.
Well, it could work. I mean, you'd have to be pretty careful with that. Like who's filming, who's watching this, who's filming for what reason, because a story like that is almost all based on hidden information. And it would be a challenge to balance that like are I would try to keep that story simpler rather like I would probably not recommend telling an ensemble crime story flipping between a lot of different cameras unless you have an awesome idea for that. I mean, it sounds like that the challenge factor would be high and what you actually get out of it would not be that high. But then again, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. You know, it's hard to tell. Sometimes if you just take an existing movie and you reimagine it in a different tone, then you can say that could be really great if executed right, or that could totally miss the mark. I don't have a great answer for this one, sorry, but I think it could be done. Like if that's inspiring to you and that sounds good to you and you have a pitch for that, then absolutely, sure, take a swing.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Just maybe label the cameras when we swap between them or something, like because just so we know who is watching this, who's filming this part. Like it would just get easy to. I feel like swapping between a bunch of different, like especially multiple factions, because Departed is all about two sides, both of whom know some information the other side doesn't know. It might get tough to remember which camera we're watching.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Could get convoluted. Yeah, true.
Might work a little better if you sort of have an objective point of view. So like think of like Reservoir Dogs, like we're gonna have two gangs meet at this warehouse that has been rigged up with hidden cameras, but neither gang knows about them. So that way you can sort of like you don't need to worry about the curation of that footage in the same way or who's gonna watch what if you have like some other party recording. I don't know. Just a thought.
Are there any death game found footage movies or like a Saw type movie? These seem like very obvious choices that I don't know if anyone's actually made.
I would look into there's a couple horror thrillers about escape rooms. I think at least one of them is found footage, and that is very in the death game kind of world. But there's like 4 or 5 different movies either called either called Escape Room, or there's one called No Escape Room or No Escape, or something kind of like that. So I would check those out there, maybe one of them,
Okay.
but not one that just leaps to mind. Although there are parts of like Saw 2 is all in a like I mean, if I remember correctly, Jigsaw films almost all of his games and stuff. So any of the Saw movies basically could be. Saw 2 would be the closest one, I would think.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
It's the best of all of them.
So I hear.
All right. Thank you for these questions, guys. And thank you for that comment there, Nacho. If you have a found footage movie logline or idea, you could suggest it now if you want to. We could talk about it for a minute. Or you could share a logline or a concept for feedback. Something else you want to ask or discuss regarding found footage features or screenwriting in general. All right, we'll open it up to Lab and Workshop.
I'm really fascinated with this idea of a bunch of people waking up in a town with cameras attached to them that they're not allowed to turn off or they die, or they're not allowed to let the battery drain or they die, and then they have to compete in a death game to escape the town. And it's all being filmed by the villain slash villains.
That sounds cool. Okay. And how high tech do you think it would be?
Um, Honestly, the lower tech, the better, probably, but I could see potentially maybe using drones. I think it'd be more interesting not to have drones and just have sort of hidden cameras all throughout the town and then the body cameras that the characters are forced to use.
Okay. And is there a guy at like a video village somewhere, like editing or like swapping between the different feeds or something?
I'm not sure. I think maybe it is just collected by the police like after the fact,
Oh, okay.
and maybe somebody, some kind of rogue whistleblower, like, you know, cuts it all together into like a snuff movie and releases it against the wishes of the higher ups. I don't know. Like a true found footage thing. Like something really bad happened here, and we have all the evidence. Here it is for your enjoyment.
Wow. If it was a snuff movie, it'd be funny if there were like subplots and stuff. It's like, oh, the person made this as a snuff film, but they decided to include emotional arcs. Like, what are they doing with the editing here? They had like artistic aspirations as
Uh,
well, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. It
I
could
don't
work.
know. Or maybe the could be like the people making the framing device could be like they're making these kind of snuff movies, these death games, and like releasing them.
Yeah.
Um,
But you
and
don't even
yeah,
really need much of an explanation if you just say, yeah, this is all this footage was found by the police. Me, the unnamed filmmaker, I'm going to now be the one that's curating that. Like I'm the one like cutting, deciding how to cut between it. You may not need to have any more complicated reason than that. Although it could be interesting if there is some other reason why people were curating or watching it.
seems like a good idea, but I don't have a protagonist or like a deeper conflict outside of the death game.
That's okay. Yeah, think more about the game and the setting. Like, is it an old west? Something about it feels like an old west town to me. Maybe just
Yeah,
my immediate imagination.
some kind of ghost town.
Yeah.
We could do out in the west where it's very dusty. That's where my brain immediately went. But we could also do like West Virginia, like a coal town that was abandoned or something like this. There's
Like one of
lots of
those
locations.
put it in one of those Western towns that is used as a movie set and is sort of like maintained in the off season by just one or two people, and they have to have a cowboy themed showdown, and the movie's called something like like
Showdown.
yeah, it's I don't know, it's some title that feels like a Western, right? And they're sort of forced to have like a Western style battle royale. I don't know. That's what I just something that jumped into my head that I wanted to see. It would obviously be a very strong direction for the movie to go, but there's a lot of directions you could try.
Oh, sure.
I would just think about the
Could
town,
also
like
have a
where
slasher
is it, right?
element.
Sure. Yeah, the
Could
slasher.
also like there's a, if we're in a Wild West town, there's some kind of like lawman like hunting down people uh,
Oh,
throughout
sure.
the death game as well.
That could be
Um,
the like time element, like if you don't eliminate one person every day, the lawman shows up. The lawman never misses.
Something like that.
It's like in the closing circle in the battle royale video games, like getting that force you all in closer together. So yeah, I'd think of some of those traps. What are the games? What are some of the fun that we would have like in the middle of that? Then
I had
you'll get to the protagonists and stuff down the line. Sorry, go ahead.
I had a rough idea.
Okay.
It's not well fleshed out, but it is the workshop time right now.
Yep, it's right now.
Okay, so the title is The Fold, and it's undercover financial crimes unit investigating fraud in a religious organization. And the protagonist embeds himself in the church, gains trust among the members of the church, and he's got a body cam. So just want to riff ideas.
Okay, so when you say documentary, you mean mockumentary, right? This is not an actual story.
Oh yeah, mockumentary. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. So financial crimes embeds himself in the church and gains trust. And so do you see the whole storyline being about mundane financial crimes, or is this about stumbling across
No,
sort of
it could be
supernatural thing.
crossing some moral boundaries. Like they could be manipulating the members by extracting their work or something like that, and then profiting. And there could be a whole lot like dark organization that is capitalizing off free labor or something like that. I don't know. I'm just thinking, yeah.
Okay. I wonder if it would not just make like does it really demand to be found footage, right? Because a found footage movie usually will use the camera in a really dynamic way that usually
Mhm.
rewards certain choices like horror, thriller, action, things like that. Whereas if we're mostly investigating financial crimes, I see the movie as mostly just being kind of hidden camera footage of boardroom meetings and stuff like that. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so it's just that people who make found footage movies would never probably make a movie that was just like about financial corruption. Like think of
Okay.
what found footage movies actually get made. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
you can
True.
write something that would never get made. Like the point might just be to practice getting better at writing or something. But I would just think, does this have to be found footage, right? Like if
Yeah.
it because if it is, then it sort of needs to argue for that. And if it's mostly just people sitting and talking, then you are just really limiting yourself with the found footage conceit rather than adding something substantial to the movie. So
Gotcha.
maybe it's a straight movie, or maybe we get involved in more than just financial crimes. It becomes more of a thriller, or there's a cult cover up and they're summoning monsters, or it could be horror, thriller, action, sci-fi, or it could simply be a straightforward narrative.
Can I
Anyway,
pitch an
that's what
idea?
jumped to my mind about it. Oh, go ahead.
I love this. I think you could make it a found footage movie. And when you said using like forced labor or something, this is something that churches actually do. They will use like homeless people as, volunteers, quote unquote, to do all these things. And you could make it really dark. You could have they're secretly like they have a bunch of drug addicts that they've scooped up off the street and they're secretly drugging them and coercing them and this kind of thing, maybe even eliminating people that are a problem to their organization. There's a lot of life and death stakes you could do with this for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Thank you for that, guys. Hope that gives you some thoughts to just get your gears turning and start thinking where to take it. Okay, and Next to the Fold, that's a good title. All right, Nasha, do you want to go next?
Sure.
All right, do you want to read out what you have and
Yeah.
this?
The Van found footage thriller comps are Panic Room, Armored. I'm sure there's probably like some kind of social media thriller that might be a better comp, but can't think of any off the top of my head. When her abusive ex-husband stalks her to a remote wilderness campground, a paraplegic travel blogger must outsmart him using her van's unique security system.
Using advanced security system. Oh, okay. I'm curious. Can I ask what that might mean?
Mhm. Yeah, so first of all, she's like a successful, vlogger. And we might even see like initially it was like a husband and wife van life thing. Maybe there was some accident and she became a paraplegic or whatever, but she kind of like, you know, um, I don't know, found her calling to like keep going, and she has like a special customized van that she can use to like get around, but it also has all these like security features, like maybe obviously like cameras and things like that, but maybe it also like has, I don't know, like it'll shock people, or probably she has like a special, there's like some really cool wheelchairs that like you can, they have like these big wheels for like off-roading and stuff. And so there's all this like stuff because she's like, I'm gonna let this disability like hinder me in any way. Like I'm gonna go wherever I want to go, like any wilderness area or whatever. And she's like vlogging this her whole life.
Okay. Are you still there?
Yep.
Okay, so uh she's in the van, the
Mhm.
husband's at the campground. Why doesn't she drive away?
Maybe he took all her gas out of the tank
Oh, it's
or did
stationary.
something to
Okay.
sabotage it. Yeah. Like I think she's going to be at a certain point, she's going to be stuck there, you know.
Oh, that's what I'm trying to assess, I guess. Like, is it a car chase thriller
Yeah.
or is it a trapped in your car kind of thing?
No, yeah, like armored, you know, like he's trying to get inside. And probably at some point she's gonna, you know, maybe pull a, you know, like let him get in and she gets out, or trap him inside and then she's, you know, out in the wilderness and, you know, something like that. And maybe the final part of it will be some kind of wilderness area outdoors.
So the van is stationary. It's
Yeah.
has no gas, but all its other features are working. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe he slashed the tires. I don't know.
Okay. Or does he have like a van of his own or something like that? I mean, then I had something
Maybe
something
he
about
could.
the
Yeah.
premise of my movie's called The Van, and that my central thing is a vehicle, but the vehicle can't move seems problematic to me.
Mhm.
Like something about that makes me
Okay.
just wonder, like, should you pick like the cabin instead, or like the lot, like the hunting lodge, or the if it doesn't, why pick a van if it like, and how many gadgets does it really, is it like a Bond car? Like how much fun can we really get out of
Mhm.
the security on it? And if there is security on a vehicle, I would think that would include like touch to dial 911 kind of OnStar sort of like instant help that you can order, right? So then I guess you'd have to have a reason why she can't do that. And then you've got a security car that can't be a car and can't use its main security feature, and you're left with just the other gadgets, which would be like what exactly? I'm just wondering what exactly
Mhm.
does your setting and your tool set offer you? Do you have a few more gadgets you can pitch me? I mean, I'm not I'm not gonna like not shooting, not the studio executive here, but can you
Yeah.
give me ideas for what some of those other features of the van might be?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, something that might like, you know, like extend and like smash him or like trap his fingers or something, or like something that could, let's say, I don't know, maybe he touches something that's like, you know, electrified, or she could, you know, like the idea is like she's just really smart, right? And so maybe she kind of designed it herself. So she could have any kind of, you know, gadgets. She might also have some things like in her wheelchair, right? That
Okay.
like,
Well,
you know,
I think I have the solution
self-defense.
for you.
Okay.
Boy, have I got the solution for you. You want to do a panic room kind of thing, but you put them in a situation, in a scenario where it doesn't feel like the character is really truly trapped there. Like, or I guess
Mhm.
the we're in a stationary van at a campground. Well, there's other people at a campground. You have to come up with excuses why she can't contact anyone now, I guess, beyond just uh it's far away from civilization and there's no signal, etc. But you said it was a high-tech van, so now in order for that to not be able to call for help, it needs to not be that high-tech, or the tech needs to not work. And so there are just some issues for me there. But let me thinking of where could this make more sense. Why don't you say like he's a mechanic? They're in his shop,
Mm.
like trapped in his shop, and he's got a bunch of mechanic guys with him,
Mhm.
and he's like, "We're gonna get in there, no matter what." And
Mm.
so therefore, you have explained why the van can't go anywhere. You don't need to say it's out of gas. You can still have her even drive it out at some point if you want to have a finale with a car chase, which you probably want to do something like that. At least have the van drive around a little bit within that space. You have trapped her much more within his control, and it feels more to me like that pressure cooker situation that you probably want. Like it's inevitable that he's going to get in, given enough time. All you have is the van, and also, can the
Mhm.
van talk or no? Can it, or does it have like an AI kind of thing?
Sure. Yeah. Why not?
A lot of them would.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, even in a couple of years.
Maybe he runs the van off the, you know, road into like a ravine or something, you know, like where
Okay.
it's, like I think part of this is there's just the idea of like a paraplegic travel vlogger who goes out into the wilderness is like a kind of, you know, it's like that's a really challenging thing for her, right? So even if she escapes the van, she's still like, you know,
That's true.
like he's at an advantage compared to her.
Right.
You know, it could be just like really far in the middle of nowhere and whatever, somewhere. But yeah, but I like the idea of, him having all these, maybe he built some of those things for her,
Right. Okay.
and now he's like wants to reclaim it. I don't know. It looks like we got another one from Dakota.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. There's
Yep.
potentially a feature there. Just given the arrangement, I'm kind of picky and I'm kind of like
Mhm.
like I have high a lot of boxes to be checked for these kinds of things before I'll say it's
Mhm.
working great. So keep at that one. I think you're almost there with it. But like, yeah, I would think about how can we of what first of all, thinking of the problem of Ben can't contact anyone, and I pitched a movie about a vehicle, but the vehicle can't move.
Mhm.
It feels like your games are kind of limited by the setup, but maybe there's a way it can still work. Keep at it. Thank you
Yeah,
for
I think there's something with connecting with her fans somehow, like maybe just a little brief signal where she gets, you know what I'm saying, where the people are watching the live feed, or
Oh, okay.
there needs to be some kind of interaction with the fans, I think.
Okay. Yeah, and they're trying to fit you have a fan character that's like trying to figure out where she is or something like that, like the black
Mhm.
phone. Could be cool. Thank you for that. I guess do we have one more from Dakota that we'll wrap up with today? I like the genres that I'm seeing mixed together there.
Yep.
All right. You say this is just an idea for now?
Yeah, just kind of an idea. I'm playing with it. Not really sure if I'll do it or not.
Okay. An incident in Mexico. When a cartel cell steals a local relic that unleashes a demonic force in a rural town, the devout Mexican soldier must defend the people he's warring against. Must defend the people he's warring against. Is the town like all aligned with the cartel? Is that what you're saying?
He is against the cartel. So there is a cartel war going on. The Mexican government is against the cartels at this point. In a lot of areas. That's what I mean by that.
But you say he must defend the people he's warring against. Does that mean he's warring
Yeah.
against everyone in the town? Or does that mean, like, are you saying that everyone in the town is connected in some way or is like aligned with the objectives of the cartel? Or am I misunderstanding that?
Uh,
Or are you
yeah,
saying he doesn't have to defend the civilians?
he's he's more focused on uh the uh I honestly don't know. This is one of those shower thoughts kind of thing.
Okay, it might just be a phrasing. It
Yeah,
might just be a
sure.
phrasing,
Yeah,
phrasing question. I just mean to say the phrasing
Yeah,
just suggests that that your team will now have to save the enemy, but ignore the civilians of the town. So that maybe just look at the
Sure.
wording there. I think
Sure,
I think
yeah.
the idea would be he has to defend not like I guess they would try to save everyone, you would think. Unless it's just the sort of thing where we have to just pull out, like we're trying to just save our squad. Like if you're saying that the core of the movie is your character trying to protect others though, then you would think that would be
Yeah.
you mentioned this a rural town. Unless it's the sort of thing where it's like it's been cleared out, there's only cartel members there. So now we need to go out of our way to help the enemy kind of thing. That would be a sort of
Sure.
different situation.
Right.
Okay, so something that might be worth just differentiating about, clarifying exactly what you mean there, because that does sort of affect the scope and objective of what the characters are doing. But a demonic, what is a demonic force?
Well, I'm kind of picturing this as a demon that manifests itself somehow.
Okay.
And that the relic is kind of the thing that has prevented said demon from coming back. But now the relic is gone. Oh, look, demon can waltz in now.
So do you want to do like monster demon, or like that's as in like big red guy with horns from Doom that will eat people? Or do you want to do more like manipulator demon who is like possessing people and like turning them to whispering in their ears and turning them to evil? What kind of demon are you thinking?
It's more like the possession, right? Where or where it's a possessive um kind of kind of demonic kind of thing where it can possess people, turn people against each other, that kind of thing. Can still kill you, but is mostly trying to possess people.
Okay. And so, is it able to possess more, like, you don't have to have all the answers to these questions now, but these are just questions that would come to my mind in continuing to develop an idea like this. So first of all, is it possessing just one person at a time? Or is it spreading like a virus or like a plague, like in a movie like When Evil Lurks, which treats demonic possession almost like a disease?
Right.
And if anyone hasn't seen that one and wants to see an absolutely mortifyingly disgusting possession movie, When Evil Lurks from like a year or two ago, or maybe 2 or 3 years ago, check that out on Shudder. So the basics are pretty strong. I love the military horror kind of angle of it. I've only seen 1 or 2 movies like this, and I always love this idea of soldiers encounter eldritch horror of some kind, right? It would fit great in my features class, which I'm teaching upcoming, which is about action horror, right? Because action horror is all about there is an overwhelming threat. Your characters can fight against it. They're competent, but they're still afraid. But you have to manage both. They're competent and they're still overwhelmed and outmatched. So given that your characters are soldiers, it would make sense if this was an enemy that we could shoot. You can't exactly shoot. I mean, if it's like sneakily possessing people, it becomes really hard to shoot them because we don't know if they are in fact the monster, the demon, or the devil or not. So this would kind of work with like a more overt, like imagine it turns people into monster demon kind of things that then attack people and need to be shot kind of thing, like almost that sort of zombie virus kind of rules would work a little better with soldier characters as opposed to, or I mean, if you want to angle it a little less away from action and more towards the more personal sort of like Exorcist style storyline, then I would have a squad of characters that are not all soldiers. So you would have like the communication person, the translator, you have like different sorts of jobs that would be able to fulfill different roles, but would still be reasonably within a military squad. But you would have like, the support kind of characters that could be just as important as the frontline guys.
Sure.
What else? Honestly, one of the only movies I could see like this, I think that I have seen like this, I think was a Sci-Fi Pictures original set in Afghanistan, but I cannot remember for the life of me what the monster was. I think it was something really big. It was like a kaiju-sized beast of some sort. But anyway, sounds cool. Try to find maybe that protagonist with that really personal connection and like, especially when you're doing devout character versus demons, we're asking, are they still devout or are they like an ex-devout kind of character that needs to find their faith? Or like think of what would that journey actually be like? Because if they are strong in faith, then is this a test for them? Is this some often religious horror will center on characters that are sinful in some kind of way, and thus what's happening in the storyline is some kind of like thematic punishment or test for them. So you might think, for instance, it's the soldiers that committed the war crime, and now maybe that evil has been festering in them and now is being punished on this biblical scale or something like that, right? Or you could maybe connect it to the doomsday idea, like the cults that are trying to end the world by summoning demons. Like maybe you can skew it to the almost Lovecraftian biblical angle of a show like 30 Coins on HBO, which is kind of along those lines.
Oh, that's a great show.
Oh, do you watch that? Oh, I'm so glad. I haven't been able to find anyone that watches it. I've only seen season 1, but yeah, that's some really fun, just like action horror, shoot the monsters kind of stuff.
I've really only seen the pilot. I need to go back and just start it over. I got busy with other things, but I really need to watch it.
Yeah, it goes quick, and it's like a comic book. Like every episode is like an issue. There's like a new messed up magic monster thing in every episode, so you know it's going to be something different, and it all connects and like builds up to the end. So yeah, check out 30 Coins on HBO if that sounds cool to you. Okay, and also think of your character's connection to the local area, as I'll say as the last thing. Is this his hometown? Is this a place of significance for him? Is this a place where his family is from, where his ancestors are from? Because all those things, the sort of like internal journey of a character in a storyline like this becomes a much bigger spiritual battle a lot of the time that you have to sort of reconcile. Not only did I shoot the monsters enough, but am I going to make that internal change that I need to and find forgiveness within me, or find my way back to faith, or something like that? Or sometimes it can be a dark version where they have to reject faith to survive, or something along those lines. But you see the idea that within the world of religious connected horror and drama, the interiority of the characters is super, super important.
Right.
And demons don't have to be really personal and religious. They can just be gross monsters that jump out of closets. But the way, like, I guess you described it sounds a little bit more like it would be on that more personal, spiritual, religious level.
Mhm.
Okay, we're at the end of our time. Thank you for sharing those ideas and everybody that contributed today. We are Skill Camp, and we have lots and lots of classes like this that happen all the time. We have boot camps that run 3 times a week, Friday 6 to 8. Saturday 12 to 2 is the novel slot. Then Sunday 11 to 1, we'll be doing TV this week. But then once TV wraps up, we'll be changing that into the feature slot. So you can look forward to Sunday being feature day and Friday being TV day for the next couple months till the end of the year. Go ahead, Nacho.
Oh yeah, just we want to invite everyone to sign up on these pledges, make a pledge, commit to finishing a feature, TV pilot or novel. And all you got to do is type your name and what you're writing.
Thanks for coming by, guys. We'll see you soon. Maybe tomorrow for a novel boot camp from 12 to 2, or tomorrow for members for lab from 4 to 6. Or on Sunday, we'll be doing TV from 11 to 1. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll talk to you soon. See you at your next script camp class or events.